I'm thrilled to welcome you this morning again in this historic location for the second time. Thank you, Bruce. That was a great keynote this morning. I think the joy in work is an important topic, and I believe if I look at LeanIX, I feel there must be at least one person having a lot of joy in his work, putting me just after this amazing keynote and putting this great challenge up for me. Yeah? So I think there's at least one person who's been very joyful. If we look at EA Connect Days, I look back a couple of years, and we started it in 2014 with a small afternoon in Basel, and that was hosted at the time by Helvetia. They welcomed us, and we gathered with 15 people at the time. And at the time, who would have thought what it would evolve to? And I'm more than thrilled that I see so many of you having traveled back here to Bonn and to this event. But most importantly, it's the time you spent with us. In the end of the year, it's 2 days you spent with us at the conference talking about this topic. I think that is the biggest proof how important and relevant enterprise architecture is today. So it's our 6th time this year. We have had more than 550 registrations for the event, and I'm more than excited to welcome you here. What is very interesting this year to see is that there is a number of companies who have joined this event with 5 or even more attendees. And you see a couple of logos here. Some have come back from the recent days or the earlier years. And I think that's a huge commitment, and I would like to join me with a huge round of applause, not only for those participants, but for everyone joining today. This event does not work if you have great sponsors helping out. So we have our premium sponsors this year with Lean42, Deloitte, ITM, and Signavio. But not only them, but also our exhibitors, which are presenting out there in the before the plenary chamber. Without them, this event would not be possible. And again, it would be great if you join for a big round of applause also for our premium sponsors and exhibitor sponsors this year. As you know, they are not here for free, of course, and also they spend their time. So I would really encourage you to network, to chat with them, to learn something new, to engage with them. If we remember back to all the conferences we've been to, there can be long hours standing at the booth, talking to people. Yeah, so I think it's well spent time, and we have a couple of slots here, so that you would really do me a big favor if you get in touch with them. If we think about the event this year, we have more than 30 outstanding speakers lined up for you. And some even speak today. They have never, or probably only a few times, spoken in the public before because their companies didn't allow it before. So I'd like to thank all of them also for negotiating with corporate communications and making sure you can actually share all this information and all your experience you have made over the last years with us here in the community. And trust me, I know how difficult it is actually to negotiate with corporate communications. For those who work with us as a reference customer, that's probably one of the biggest parts during the process to get you signed up and be able to share what LeanIX does in the public. We would like to give back as much as possible here at the event. We have one-on-one sessions with product and customer success. We have an expert session with Mark McGregor, who is a former Gartner analyst. And we have UX sessions and our demo stations out there. If you haven't signed up for anything out of those activities here at the event yet, there's an info booth. And I heard especially Jan, our CTO, reminded me yesterday, we have a couple of more product sessions available where you can sit down one-on-one with the product folks. So I would say use the time. You can get great insight, but also we can learn from your feedback, which is invaluable to us. We heard before, so that's why I'm not touching it too deeply here, the event app. So I believe by now most of you will have it installed, and Andreas is already using it. Yeah. So he stays in the first row. That's great to see. Yeah, so it's brave enough. Yeah. So I will go over that. If you prefer offline, like I said before, there are enough people or many people here who can help you. Some of you know I love product launches, and today is probably the biggest launch in our company history. The one thing I need to disappoint you, it's not going to be a shoe. So although I'm a big sports fan and I love this company, I must disappoint you. We stick to software for the time being, at least for this year. If you need help during the event, you will find a person who's wearing those shoes, and you can approach them, and I think they will help you out. Before we come to those product launches, I would like to first give you a little bit more insight how LeanIX developed over the last couple of years, and especially over the last 12 months for those who have attended this event before. We have 3 areas which made out LeanIX great development over the last 12 months. And it has actually been a fantastic year for LeanIX. And this is due to the trust of our customers, the enterprise readiness we've achieved, and the dedication of our employees. So let's start with the customers. We have been able to grow the company by more than 100% year over year. And by the time, that actually brought us now to more than 240 customers using the product. We, this year, achieved that Gartner, as an analyst, recognizes us as a visionary in the Magic Quadrant. And if you think back, for many, many startups entering the software field, it's actually the dream where you need to end up in the Gartner Quadrant. Yeah? So this is where you get out and get a lot of attraction in the market. And so it's a milestone for us, and I think it's an important milestone, but of course not the only one. We have invested a lot this year into enterprise readiness. One of the things is ISO certification, which is probably a big standard that you level up your processes and get better and use best practices in that. So we achieved this ISO certification a couple of weeks or months ago, and there has been quite some invest into making sure that works out and that we also stay agile and stay fast in all the developments we can do. And last but not least, and this is very important to us as a company, is that our employees say that we are a great place to work. And we heard before some motivation and inspiration what we can do better. And I believe there's still a lot of room to improve always, but I feel with these 3 factors, the trust, our enterprise readiness, and the dedication of our people, I think we're looking back to a fantastic month. Just to share a little bit more insights on how we work together with our customers. A couple of days ago, actually, we had our power user meeting in Bonn, and it demonstrates some of the people coming to Bonn in that group, and some of them actually coming back over and over, and it was already a number of times that we did this meeting. We get a lot of feedback from the user community, and especially from the people who use the product very heavily. And so that early feedback is essential for our product development. And therefore, whoever likes to share feedback during the day today, that's more than appreciated to drive forward quickly our roadmap. One other important point is working together with partners. I mentioned it before that this event wouldn't be possible, but I think also our growth in the market and the continuous development looks on a partner network which is actually growing quite quickly. So the partner network this year was growing, and we added, especially as new partners, Cognizant, Gambit, MHP, Novatec, ProStep, and Ventum as new partners in the network. Our strategy to partner with leaders in the market when it comes to enterprise architecture and digital transformation is driven by the belief that we are very strong in the technology we can deliver, but there's not only technology, there's also change attached to enterprise architecture, to the adoption of modern technologies. So it's not a technology thing only, but it needs to be a good package together. And so that's why we look forward to more joint engagement with partners in the future. And this is why yesterday we actually had our first partner day, inviting all the partners into our office, which you heard is close by. And we had a great turnout and interest from the partner community. And this year, we want to share big congratulations to 4 partners who received a specific award for their engagement. And that is Lean42 as our delivery partner of the year. They also have a booth out there. It's the new partner of the year, Cognizant, and it's the regional partner of the year, Locutus, and the technology partner of the year, Signavio. And those 4 partners have stood out in the community in 2019 by their commitment to and their investment into LeanIX. And at this point, I would like to ask you, congratulate those partners for their great commitment in this year. To share a little more insights what those partners delivered as projects. So as one example, we had the International Trade Fair and Exhibition Center in Munich as a project where enterprise architecture has actually achieved or helped to achieve cost savings and an optimized information security. So Lean42 as our partner has helped with that project together with LeanIX in this case. The other case is a market leader for food processing, where Signavio, as a partner of ours, has come in and showed that an integrated enterprise architecture and business process management can actually much better drive forward a productive project. And last but not least, a British airport as a project of our new partner, Cognizant. There it was all about enterprise architecture consulting as an accelerator to improve the project efficiency and achieve a very professional outcome in short notice. So these are 3 examples where partners have actually contributed with their projects, with their help, to the adoption of LeanIX. At this point, I'd like to share more insights into the company itself. LeanIX has grown to more than 170 employees right now. So it's in total, and we are based not only in Bonn and also in Boston, which you probably all heard of before, and we now have more than 50 employees in the Boston office addressing the US market, but we've also just recently decided to open an office in India, in Hyderabad, to further expand our product and engineering capabilities. But most of all, I can say I love this team, and the effort and work they've put in to make that event possible is, especially in the last weeks, is unbelievable. So we had an event team pulling all of this off, but also we had special engineering teams pulling together and making sure that all the features actually were ready for this event. So always this is a big topic for us. So I can only say I'm very gifted to work with all of those talented people together, and I'm thrilled to now share what we've actually put together and released today. So for us, growth is an important part. It's enabling opportunities. It's enabling opportunities to personally grow, so to have career options, to take over leadership, to take over management positions. It enables us to invest into the product. It enables us to improve the enterprise architecture discipline and drive it forward. And at this point, I'd like to look back a little bit on how has enterprise architecture actually developed over time. And I'm using an overview here, which most of you probably have seen here and then. It's a typical analyst view on the expectations of enterprise architecture over the time. And it's quite interesting to see that in 1987, this is when all started. And this is, funnily, not only the year of birth of my sister, but also the birth of the Zachman framework, where the whole thing around enterprise architecture actually evolved. And it probably had its peak a couple of years later when more frameworks were developed, for example, TOGAF, and was established. But then I think for those of you who have been in this industry some time, they have experienced there was a certain decline in the perception and expectation what enterprise architecture can actually deliver to the market. And only in 2011, so from an analyst perspective, there was like a small uptake starting because there was more focus on business outcomes and a focus on what can enterprise architecture actually deliver, and that this is not only a framework-driven exercise and a very technology-driven thing, but also generates value. And guess what? I couldn't resist to add a little flavor to this analyst view and show when LeanIX was born. So I'm more than happy that we are probably in the market in the better part of enterprise architecture's life. And while I wouldn't say, and I don't dare to say we made the turnaround, so I stick to the message, the turnaround was made. We are continuing to help enterprise architecture getting more productive over the years. And what we believe in is that high usability is a very, very important factor to drive forward this productivity. And also, as a second point, having an open ecosystem, so applications which can connect to the enterprise architecture repository, to have a scalable service as a one important point as well. So while many vendors in the market had looked at this topic like from a perpetual license perspective, so they once sold it, and then, well, guess what happened? A couple of years later, they had to renew their licenses. But in our model, we depend on the satisfactions your users have with the product. We depend on that you are willing to continue working with us. And we have some customers here, and I spoke with one this morning, who started working with us in 2013 and is still a customer. And this is, I think, the model which has brought software as a service and which is actually driving us in a complete different way to think about software and always keep improving it. And at this point, I think the important question is, what is the outcome really? Yeah, so, and it's interesting to see that we've just done a study with one of the analysts in order to understand what is a tangible business outcome of enterprise architecture. And some of you have really helped us to understand it better and learn it better. So Forrester confirms that that there's a 189% ROI with LeanIX. And if we look at the net present value, it's above $700K US dollars. And also the payback is in the range of 3 months. While I'm sharing this here just as a first proof of, yes, there is tangible business value, that there is not only a there's not only a qualitative benefit, there's also a quantitative benefit. And we have a session later on, or later in this conference, where Simon will share much more details on the business cases, on the different dimensions, like the cost, the risk, the revenue attached to it, to understand better what is the business case for enterprise architecture. And I really believe that it can be tremendously helpful if you're in the process of building together a business case or rationalizing how you think about enterprise architecture. So that is one thing which happens here at the conference. But still, for us, the question is, as I mentioned, software as a service relies on improving it all the time. So we ask ourselves how to further improve. And this is the best moment to ask one of our very strong customers of the product to understand what are the pains in the product. And I'd like to run a short video for you to learn more what we should improve.
First is all about navigation. So it can get quite complicated to navigate through an inventory with thousands of fact sheets, to find the dependencies, to understand the dependencies. We have got hundreds of bookmarks in LeanIX, this with regards to saved searches and saved reports. And it would be a huge benefit for us with something like Smart Explore, yeah, to be more productive, yeah, and people more satisfied by using LeanIX.
Yeah, thank you, Rainer, for sharing this insight with us. And it's actually something which went back to even last year's EA Connect days, when we had a number of conversations with our customers. And so I'm excited that we're announcing as of today a new set of functionality which we call LeanIX Smart Explore. And it's all around UX improvements. And at this time, I would like to run a short video for you which actually summarizes all those features. Thank you. Yeah, so we're excited about this launch of all those functionalities, and for some of you, you've seen it obviously first time today, and that's why I'd like to sum it up a little bit. So it's all around rapid navigation. It's around intelligent personalization and seamless exploration. So what we do is what we previously called bookmarks is now a saved search, is a diagram, and is a report. The visualizer has actually moved up as a primary item in the menu bar. And also what we've done is we made all those saved searches, reports, and diagrams now searchable. So you see that on the left-hand side. What we also do is we personalize it. So you get a list of your recommended diagrams, your recommended reports, so that even if you have a lot of those in your inventory, like we heard before from Rainer, it's easier to understand and easier to navigate in the first place. Also, we allow to personalize much better. So we allow to recommend reports, saved searches to other users. If you remember, today we only allow to share a saved search or a bookmark with everyone, or to save it for your own. In the future, you can now share it exactly with people, and you can also define the permissions. So you can create reports, diagrams, which are only visible to some of the people. And last but not least, and this is a feature many of you have actually waited for and built it before with the visualizer, it's around seamless exploration. Within the fact sheet, you can immediately drill into all the relations of the single item. So let's imagine you have an application which is connected to technology, connected to business capabilities, to data objects, and you can navigate it in this tree and easily follow it. And it's not only one hop, it's infinite hops you can actually go. So you can navigate from the application to the technology, understand where this technology is used elsewhere, and then understand what provider is doing that and what provider, and so on. So it's very, very seamless and takes away a lot of manual effort which was there before. Many of you obviously ask, okay, so what's the cost of it. Yeah, so do I need to pay it? How do I get it? Yeah, so the message here is we're going to launch it on December 10th. So while it's ready today and you will be able to see it at the demo booths, we are well aware that it's actually changing the usability more heavily, and we don't want to just roll it out while we all sit here in Bonn and your users are completely freaking out. Yeah? So we are aware that this would be something we actually want to avoid. So what happens is we're sending out a newsletter today, and this newsletter contains a presentation and a video and allows you to understand all the changes so you can give it away to you users until we launch it on December 10th. What we've also done is we've introduced on the dashboard a README panel so which you can customize. That means you can put in a custom message, you can link that document, you can even create an own presentation and explain what's going to change. And I think that all will help to drive the adoption. And all these things are actually great motivations or great insights and ideas which we generated during the Power User Community Day a couple of weeks ago. And I think that was very valuable to find out how we rolled it out together. The second point is it's available in all editions. So it's not only limited to a larger edition, so you don't need to buy it and so on. And more importantly, we take away all limits, also for existing customers. So while you had before maybe only a limited number of diagrams, reports, or searches you could save, we're taking away those limits. They're gone. And so we also would hope that the name of the bookmarks will be gone over some time, because we now talk about it as a saved search, a diagram, and a report. Last but not least, you already read it probably, it's going to be free for all those editions. The only thing which is going to be on a per effort basis is what we call subtypes and dependent fields. It's a way to further customize your fact sheets. So for example, if you think about an IT component, you can drill it down into a software, a hardware, and a service. And now with subtypes, you can actually add fields which only show up when it's a specific type. Or let's imagine you want to reflect a license type only for a software. That field only is there in that case. So that's a functionality we also launched together with this package, Smart Explore, and it's going to be a per effort basis how we invoice this. So these are the changes around Smart Explore. And it's significantly improving the user experience with LeanIX, so that's what we believe in. The question now is, so what's next? What are we going to do with the product? Where are we bringing it? And I think at that point, it's important to take a little bit a broader view on what enterprise architecture and what the IT in companies are actually doing. If we look a little bit more towards how applications are delivered today and how they are provided in the business, we feel that until now, it was probably more a lift and shift. So applications and stuff was running a lot on premise, and there was a lot of lift and shift going on for companies who had decided to actually move things into the cloud. So they decided to actually go for infrastructure as a service, so virtual machines, moving those legacy applications which ran in own data centers, and just took them and put them into virtual machines. And also looking here at an analysis at one of the quotes from an analyst, as of today, the estimation is that less than 30% of enterprises or companies run containerized applications. So that's still a low number. However, if we look forward in 2020 and plus, we believe there's a whole cloud-native shift coming up. I was at the San Diego KubeCon conference last week, and it was a crazy experience to see that more than 12,000 developers are actually joining that event in order to understand what can they do with containers and how can they leverage it most. And I think if we look back at the development, or not only of that conference, but also at the entire cloud-native ecosystem, there's a shift coming up, and it's more the shift from what companies do either to replace applications by switching to software as a service, or to completely rewrite their applications into cloud-native infrastructure as a service or platform as a service. So leveraging all the offers Azure or Google Cloud or AWS are actually offering in order to make sure that you don't develop stuff which is today more commodity. And also the estimation is in the future that 75% of organizations are going to run containerized applications in the future. So there's obviously a big shift coming up. Most of you might say, okay, André, so that's what Netflix and Amazon and Facebook, those type of guys are doing, and it doesn't really affect me, and probably we're going to wait some time until this is all figured out. Well, I think that might be true a couple of years back, and you probably better tell us that we see a number of projects actually going on in also larger enterprises. Of course, the successful cloud-born companies like Netflix, Salesforce, or Facebook have earlier adopted those technologies because they were able to do it on the green field. But we have companies like Adidas, MasterCard, SAP, or Telecom already sharing great success stories in the cloud-native foundation, which is the community of all the companies entering this cloud-native world. So I believe that methods like DevOps, continuous integration, microservices, and containers are no longer just an R&D topic and a side project of a guy who's doing digital transformation or has some money to drive it forward. I believe it's going to be a much bigger thing, and it's worth and important to think about how to deal with that from an enterprise architecture perspective, or even think about how enterprise architecture needs to evolve into this cloud-native world. And I'm thankful that we work together with one of those cloud-born companies to learn from them how they actually deal with that increased complexity. And I'd like to run a video from Zalando, who gives us more insight in what they do with all that complexity.
I'm from the information security department, so of course we want to have transparency into our landscape. We need to know what assets do we have to protect, and this is why LeanIX, as a long partner for us, comes into play, and we sync our IT assets, cloud-specific assets, into the LeanIX system to exactly provide this transparency to not only our security department, but overall Zalando. Ad hoc changes, especially in the cloud environment, instances coming, instances are going, and you really need to have this real-time visibility and aggregate it then to specific global assets like applications. You have your EC2 stack, and you have to somehow bind all those infrastructural components into a bigger context.
Yeah, thank you, Nico, for sharing this. And I'm excited that as of today, we're announcing a new product line, a second product actually, besides what we already do. And this is a milestone for us as a company because we only launched a product once, and that was 7.5 years ago, and in a totally different setup. So actually, I'm excited to launch the first part of the LeanIX Cloud Native Suite. And again, I'd like to show you what it actually does in a short video. Thank you. This is an important milestone for us moving forward into the cloud-native world. And I'd like to sum it up a little bit what we do with this first cloud intelligence product. So first of all, it's multi-cloud visibility. So it allows us to discover automatically the hyperscaler platforms AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. And second, you don't only have full visibility of all the services which are being used across the world in different data centers, different regions, but it also allows us to keep track of the spend and understand into what services which spend is actually going. The third point is also very, very important for us in this context. It's not only about visibility, because what Nico said before, the rate of instances and stuff in the cloud is actually coming and going. You need more mechanisms to understand where are we violating rules, where is compliance in danger. So what we do is we have built in a business rule-based violation control. So automatically, if there are violations, something like a security violation, or you used a specific security rule was not followed, then this will show up and aggregate in the overview in Cloud Intelligence. I'm proud that we're announcing as of today a strategic partnership with a company from Canada, which is called Humano, and probably much better known for a product which is called CloudDocket. And what we do is actually we partner with a company who has been in this space for quite some time already. So they have built this discovery mechanism and the capability to automatically document those cloud environments. And we have Marco and I think Pascal here today from CloudDocket. So I'm excited that we are starting into this partnership and building upon a lot of knowledge in this space. What we do is we're not considering this as a standalone thing only. So the greater goal is actually that you get the information and take it in order to enrich the LeanIX Enterprise Architecture suite. So we are well aware that just having the full visibility of the cloud will end up in a whole lot of details and a very, very granular view. So what we do is we basically have, with those two products, you basically have two views on it. The one view is on the cloud environment, the visibility, the violations, the spend, with all their details and updated automatically. And then what we do is we extract meaningful information for enterprise architecture automatically and import it into an enterprise architecture workspace. So basically, you can imagine, for those of you who use multiple workspaces, that these are like two workspaces, and they even have separate data models, how they are filled. What we do is we have not only for Smart Explorer, which you saw earlier, and our CTO Jan is going to run a session on product right after this to give more insights on that, but we also have Dominic from our team running a more detailed demo on what we do with Cloud Intelligence. So you get, during that demo, much more insights on the use cases, but also on the functionality of the product. What we also do and announce today is that while Cloud Intelligence is generally available, we have worked with 5 organizations in the last couple of months in a beta program to understand what are their needs and how can we bring out a first version of the product which is actually meaningful to them and works well with them. So now we announce an early adopter program for the Cloud Intelligence product. And it's actually going to be open in the full first quarter. And the main things probably to remember is that we don't only put a lot of more effort in it to design the early adopter program and do functionality which you require in that program, but also it has a financial impact. So we're offering a 20% discount on the list price, and we even add extra discounts for the beta customers who have already shared all their knowledge with us. There will be also more insights about the adopter program in the session of Dominic, and of course, if you have questions, just approach your customer success manager or your account manager at LeanIX. So after those 2 big topics, I would like to move to another topic which I mentioned earlier, which is important to us. It's the ecosystem. So we have always invested into making sure that our application is not only standalone, but benefits from data in and out. And at this point, I'm happy to share that our partnership with Signavio is going to deepen even more. And I'm happy, although he cannot be here, to share some words from Gero, who is actually the co-founder of the company, and how he actually sees the partnership evolving.
My name is Gero Decker. I'm one of the founders and CEO of Signavio, and I'm proud to be a strong LeanIX partner. Since the start of our partnership in 2013, our shared vision and commitment to a cloud-based, easy-to-use, and collaborative solution has proven a solid foundation for our cooperation. With more and more companies improving and reinventing their customer experience through the power of digital, the close interplay between process management on the one hand and application and technology management on the other hand is more crucial than ever. That's why I'm excited to maintain and expand our partnership over the coming years. Enjoy EA Connect Days 2019.
One of the results of this continued invest into the partnership is that as of today, we're launching or announcing a new and extended Signavio connector. So what it will do is it will allow an extended synchronization with the Signavio glossary. So moving data back and forth with Signavio is getting much more extended. And especially we're reading properties of Signavio processes. So in the past, you were only able to import processes from Signavio into LeanIX, which was already a big advantage because all of a sudden you didn't have to retype the information, but automatically had the process models inside of LeanIX. Also, what we do is we allow to set tags and subscriptions on the process fact sheets. That was a functionality which was also not there, and it's now helping to categorize much easier the processes. Last but not least, we allow synchronize of relations to LeanIX. So a whole lot of package which extends the Signavio integration and I think will help a lot to further improve the data exchange between the two solutions. The second point is something new. It's what we call the integration API. When we, some years back, announced that we would not only have a REST API, but also a GraphQL API, we still believe that was the right decision to come up with an API which allows us to much easier access the content in LeanIX. But over the years, we have found out that many organizations have actually built automatic integrations with LeanIX. And what they always had to do is they always had to rebuild the capabilities of understanding when I update something or when I put something into LeanIX, then I need to do an update of data, or I need to delete data, or I need to create data even new. So always when you synchronize two systems, you always need to think about what are the differences between those systems and all that stuff. And I think what we learned is we don't want to implement all of that again and again. And I think one of the big additions here is that with the new integration API, we invented a format which we call the LeanIX data interchange format, which is a JSON file, and it's basically abstracting the data model. And with that file, it can actually be uploaded to a single endpoint and contain multiple data, which actually is then processed by LeanIX. So from a connector standpoint, you no longer need to actually think about, do I need to update something? Do I need to create a record? Do I need to delete a record? That is all happening actually behind the API, and we do the job for you. And we also allow to configure processing rules in that API, and that's actually then executed. So while those rules are only configured once, it can be executed then always when you upload new data. We believe that's a big step ahead to integrate systems and allows to much cheaper also do that than before. Both extensions are available today. They are available to all editions, and there are no additional costs. So we continue to invest heavily into the platform capabilities of LeanIX and make that available actually with everyone. And we already had first customers using that, and we have a session later on in the conference where Niklas and Werner from our engineering and product departments are actually introducing that in a deeper dive session, the integration API. So as you've now seen, we've extended the product range with LeanIX. We would like to give you a little bit of a broader overview how LeanIX as a platform is now looking like. So now that we have actually 2 products, what does it look like? So what we think about here is with our product line that it now covers the transformation journey more from end to end. So we acknowledge that companies have on-premise applications, monolith applications in place, but at the same time, they're transitioning into a cloud-native or microservices world in the future. And we also acknowledge that it's not going to be a black or white situation. So it's not going to be, it's moving away from the coverage of the existing landscape into the cloud-native world only. So we believe having a very holistic approach to it can be helpful for a lot of transformation journeys. What you also see here, and I think that's important, both products rely on the same technology. So whatever we invest in product development and engineering is actually for the benefit of the 2 products. And we introduced before the LeanIX Smart Explorer, which you see here marked as a new addition to the platform capabilities. And LeanIX Smart Explorer is equally helpful, of course, for enterprise architecture, but then also for our cloud intelligence module. If we look at the integrations, what we see here is it's a little bit divided by the integrations being available to the enterprise architecture suite with ServiceNow, of course, Signavio as a long-time integration, Confluence. We now have Apptio and Jira on our roadmap for the integration with enterprise architecture specifically. And on the other side, for the cloud-native suite, as announced earlier, it's AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure right away, thanks to the underlying OEM partnership with CloudDocket. On the roadmap is an integration with Kubernetes to add even more details and add even more capabilities for specific Kubernetes environments. And you see it already marked here in the product, so that we will add a microservice intelligence module, which is specifically targeted towards companies running Kubernetes. So this is like the overview of the platform. At the same time, we received a lot of feedback on pricing in the last couple of months or even years. So some customers were saying us, well, I need to pick and choose a lot of functionalities, and then I have started, and then let's say a couple of weeks and months in, I find out I would need a specific survey edition, or I need a specific virtual workspace, or I still want SSO. So there was a certain friction in terms of understanding what I need to pick and choose. It's a little bit like you go to a restaurant and just to find out while you're eating that you forgot to order something. And that's why we rethought what our pricing actually looks like. And what we've done is also with your feedback and input, we've looked at our pricing scheme a little bit more in depth. And we're coming up with a different approach to pricing now. So what we do is, first of all, for the enterprise architecture suite, we're dividing it right now not in functional capabilities you're buying, but in 2 modules. The APM, which stands for Application Portfolio Management, as a base module, and the TRM, which stands for Technology Risk Management, as an extended module. And we're taking away all the need of adding specific features and capabilities on top and paying for that extra. So most importantly, the APM module will include self-service configuration, which was something to purchase for in the past. It will include the survey power features, which allow to do much more in the survey. It will include the full metrics, the virtual workspaces, which allow to subdivide a workspace into several areas. It will include the SSO capabilities, IP address restriction, and even more smaller modules, which were on the menu list before. Of course, it will also include integrations, Confluence, Signavio, and it will also include the integration with the Cloud Native Suite. The TRM module will have additional reports and functionality and data model extensions which are tailored toward managing the technology risk and understanding where's obsolescence in the landscape. And while you had to purchase ServiceNow and the Technopedia database as a separate menu items in the past, that is now all bundled into the TRM module. Also, we will have additional support packages. In the past, there was only one support model, and now we've split it out into a Comfort, a Premium, and a Platinum support model. So the structure of the pricing gets more easy. What is important as another point we got as a feedback is we introduced this concept of fact sheets, and probably we're the only one in the world where everyone asks, so what is a fact sheet? And we had many people asking, what term is that? And we are now coming at a point where we acknowledge that for pricing discussions and purchasing, it's much easier to go to a different metric. The feedback we received from the customer base was that with the consumption-based pricing we're following, that's the right thing to go. We don't want to go back to user-based pricing now, but stick with our innovation or innovative approach and allow for more collaboration. So we stick to the model that you can use unlimited users with LeanIX, but the key metric for the different prices in LeanIX is now the number of applications. And we believe it's much more easy to estimate that and understand also in purchasing or across the different stakeholders. To compare it just quickly, while we had 3 editions in the past, we only have 2 modules. There was no self-configuration in the past and 3 additional config packages. So we're moving away from that and we're introducing what we call self-configuration and further configurations which are not included in the self-config upon request. So all the basic and important stuff like updating, creating fields, changing colors, translations, and so on will be all included in the self-configuration. We had a long list of items on the agenda. We're now moving to a more use case-centric view. We had just one customer support in the past, now different support packages. We had fact sheets as metric. Now we're moving to applications. So that's the quick summary of that pricing. Moving forward to the Cloud Native Suite. And here as well, we've worked and analyzed the market. So the key idea here is we have this module Cloud Intelligence. And basically what we do is we go to a metric which we call Cloud Spend Under Management. So it's measuring the cloud spend, not of your entire company, but the part you have imported automatically into LeanIX. And if you look around in the market, and we've watched a couple of, closely analyzed a couple of other vendors, that's very well understood in the cloud native market. So we really want you to grow and have value early on. So even if you only map in a little of your cloud landscape with us, but if you have the mapping or will map out large parts of it, the model automatically grows. So these are like the 2 pricings. It's important at this point to say what happens with my pricing if I'm already a LeanIX customer. And the key message here is, which we've already discussed a couple of weeks ago in the power user community, that there are no changes for existing customers. So unless there's an opt-in for opt-in on renewal. So we acknowledge that we have long-standing relationships with customers and we have contracts and so on. So we apply this pricing as of 1st of January for new customers. There's, of course, the opportunity for customers to opt into that model, and we, of course, will help with that and foster that, but there is no real force for that, and we want to make sure that there's a long enough grace period so that budgeting can take place and you can understand how you want to move into that. At the same time, customers of the existing pricing will benefit from all the investments into the platform. So something like Smart Explorer, what we launched today, will be automatically available in, of course, both pricing. New modules, which are a combination of data models and integrations and reports, that is something we will move into the new pricing only. At the same time, I think it's important, you made an invest into LeanIX and you purchased a configuration add-on in the past. What we will do, every customer who purchased configuration in the past will automatically get the self-configuration once this is available. So this is our commitment into the existing customer base, while at the same time moving forward to this new pricing, we still want to make sure that there is no friction, and there's our customer relation is maintained and going on in the future. There's one more thing I'd like to announce today, which is what we call LeanIX Professional Services. And what we see is, with expanding the range, there's an opportunity for more enablement for customers and partners today. So what we believe is, with LeanIX Professional Services, we can have a strong outcome focus of that group. That means proving EA value and driving forward cloud-native adoption. Second, we can benefit with the professional services team a product mindset, because they're very close to the product development. And last but not least, consulting mindset, consulting expertise. So people who can help out in projects and drive forward your enterprise architecture programs. So we get this need and this question for this type of professional services quite often, and it's, for us, a complementary thing to what we already do with partners. So both partners and customers will benefit from that offer. Just an overview of what type of services we're going to position in the market, and it will be subdivided across discovery services, implementation, and optimization. So while you see here on this overview services which might apply to any organization, like the business capability definition or application rationalization used with LeanIX, this is applicable with any organization. But then there are also services which we're going to offer, which are for existing customers. So implementation support, migrating from an existing tool to LeanIX, or data imports, or even building automations with other integrations. So that's the offering with cloud, both with cloud native, but also enterprise architecture management, what we bring to the market, and we start this offering on the 1st of January next year. Last but not least, I would like to come to the product roadmap of LeanIX. And we're going to have 3 big themes in LeanIX for the next year. The first is excellence in detail. So we stick our commitment to user experience, to improving functionality. The second is to build out the platform. So invest into the ecosystem, into workflows, computed fields, and performance and reliability. And the third point is expanding the scope. Cloud Native Suite is one of the things, but also we learned that investing into more capabilities around strategy and roadmaps for enterprise architecture is important. We have listed down those items of those 3 themes which we lock in for Q1. And the ones which are marked here in blue are the ones which are strategically important to us. So we've locked in a number of topics for Q1, which is self-service configuration, which is the integration API, which is going to be improved, which is an Apptio connector, and we have Apptio as a sponsor here around today, and we're bringing to the market the first way of connecting enterprise architecture with financial management, in this case Apptio, and of course expanding cloud intelligence. We have a couple of more topics on that list, and of course, looking ahead into the year, we have at least 3 further high-priority topics which we're going to work on. The one is configurable workflows. While the data until now is fairly static and needs analysis, with workflows you can actually turn it into actions. The second point is we think we're a great solution for a data-driven approach to enterprise architecture, but there are great tools out there which help in modeling. So one of the first things we're going to do is to get an integration going with Lucid Charts, which is a very widespread solution used in IT to do data modeling or to do UML modeling, so more deeper dive solution modeling. And last but not least, like I mentioned before, strategy and roadmap support. If you have more topics on those roadmap, more questions on those roadmap topics, our product team and around our CTO Jan is actually very willing to give more insights and to share what we do there. There's one more thing before we actually go out into the break, and you probably have missed your conference bags yet. I haven't seen any this morning, and this is actually a good sign. So we didn't give out any conference bags, and you're not going to receive anyone today. We believe that's a little bit old school and outdated, so we've decided actually for staying a little bit more eco-friendly. So what we do is we actually offset your travels here to Bonn by saving all the cost for the conference bags, and we're planting 2 trees for every participant. And we're doing that in a forest in Nicaragua. So because we think it's valuable, you come here, you network, but at the same time, we try to do whatever we can to save the environment. So, thank you. With that having said, we already planted 1,000 trees. With you all coming here, what we do is, during the event, we allow you to add 1 more tree for each review we do in the peer insights. So if you help us out in the peer insights, we're very willing to add another tree, and let's see how many trees we've actually achieved towards the end of the day. We have a separate review station over here, and colleagues who can actually help us put the review in there. So if you spend some time, I would really appreciate you doing that. So you do something good for LeanIX and allow us to get to the customer of choice, but at the same time, you also do something for the environment. I'm looking forward to see you all again in the evening. We're going to give out, for the first time, the LeanIX Awards to some great customers for the fastest time to value, the best collaborator, and the strongest innovator. That was it for the morning. I'm excited to have you all here, and I wish you a great conference in the next 2 days. Thank you.